Good evening and welcome to Sunset News this Friday evening. As always, we bring you news, community stories, economics, weather, and sports. I am Glenora Shipura. In the news tonight, the Build Together project in partnership with the municipality of Swakopmund held a groundbreaking ceremony for Phase 3 of the Build Together project on Irvin 3290 at X Station 7 in Wandesa, Swakopmund. This phase will see the construction of 80 houses for beneficiaries of the Build Together program. The Build Together project, in partnership with the Swakopmund Municipal Council, aims to provide affordable housing to low-income earners. Let's take a look.
I've been bestowed upon the opportunity to address you at the occasion of the groundbreaking ceremony of Build Together Phase 3 project. Ladies and gentlemen, the municipality of Swakopmund has positioned itself towards the social progression of the Namibian people, among other development goals. Therefore, quality service delivery remains a critical element on the agenda of Swakopmund Council, as we strive to meet the needs of our community, especially the most sought-after commodity, which is housing. We are here to celebrate yet another milestone where we will witness the breaking ground for the construction to commence for 80 Evans. These Evans are soon to be beautiful houses, a realization of a dream for 80 beneficiaries. The process was lengthy, and we were all getting impatient, but it was indeed worth the efforts. And I should say that Rome was really not built in one day. So here we are, maybe after, if I count from 2017, how many years, but here we got it, and we will have beautiful houses at last. Director of Ceremony Maslenda, ladies and gentlemen, access to residential land and housing remains the biggest barrier to homeowners, not only in Swakopmund but throughout Namibia. Although Council has made significant progress in terms of addressing the housing challenge and land provision, many residents remain unable to keep up with the inflated standard of living in urban areas and find themselves in dilapidated informal shelters on the periphery of towns. It is therefore fundamental that Council uses this opportunity to ensure that the needs of many residents to acquire affordable housing in Swakop is adequately met to cater for the bulk of residents falling under the low to middle income groups. Having stated that, I'm indeed proud of the progress at which Council is moving in terms of the delivery of housing, especially if we have to look back at the successful year that we had thus far.
Tourist arrivals to Namibia have increased by 4.6% from 2021 to a total of 243,466 tourist arrivals in the 2022 tourism season, according to Tourism Minister Pohamba Shifeta. Although the past 2 years were gloomy to many in the tourism and travel sector, the future looks promising. He said that tourist arrival numbers are on the increase since 2021 by 37.3%, from 169,565 in 2020 to 232,756 in 2021. Shifeta said that this growth is commendable considering the negative impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on the tourism sector globally and on Namibia in particular since its onset in late 2019. However, I would like to add that these visitor numbers remain very low for the country, as it only represents about 15% of the pre-COVID-19 numbers at about 1.59 million tourist arrivals. Shifeta made these remarks in response to questions posted about post-COVID-19 tourism strategy in the National Assembly. Shifeta said that the ministry initiated and conducted a socio-economic assessment of the impacts of COVID-19 on tourism in Namibia in collaboration with the United Nations Development Programme in 2021. The report is vital to understand the current and evolving scenarios to secure the re-emergence of the tourism industry post-COVID-19. A final report titled COVID-19 Socioeconomic Impact Assessment on Tourism in Namibia of 2021 contents are available to the public on the ministry's website and UNDP's offices. Moreover, he said that the outcome of this assessment gave a subsequent development of the Tourism Recovery Plan 2022 to 2024. He said that the plan sets out the framework for a sectoral strategic approach to address matters that has a bearing on the recovery of the tourism economy and strategic interventions required to support the growth at each stage of the recovery process. Getting to our next story, export abattoirs are experiencing an increase in the number of cattle being slaughtered as farmers reduce stock in preparation for the dry months ahead. While live exports have decreased, livestock exports recorded a 14.91% decrease in May from the 13,129 heads of cattle exported in April. According to the Meat Board Market Watch, live cattle exports, mainly weaners, declined from 13,129 heads exported in April to 11,171 heads exported in May. This decline in live exports may be attributed to the current pressures experienced in South Africa, where feedlots are currently operating at full capacity since the foot and mouth disease outbreak. The Meat Board said that 95% of May live exports were exported to feedlots in South Africa, whereas the remaining 5% were exported for farming/breeding purposes to Angola and Botswana. The number of cattle slaughtered at export abattoirs, however, increased by 34.86% from 7,966 heads slaughtered in April to 10,743 heads in May. This increase is driven by low rainfalls experienced during the first quarter of the year, causing farmers to reduce stock in preparation to dry months ahead. Getting into our next story, Menzies Aviation Namibia will be allowed to continue ground handling services at the Hosea Kutako International Airport at least for the next 3 weeks until they return to court to hear whether their application seeking an order compelling Namibia Airports Company to give them more time to vacate the airport will be sanctioned. This comes after Judge Shifameni Uitele yesterday postponed proceedings to July 4th. Yesterday's proceedings were seen by those in attendance as a loss for NAC, who wants Menzies out. After last week's Supreme Court judgment, NAC had given Menzies 3 days to finalize the handover arrangements. Menzies subsequently lodged the latest court proceedings, a move which effectively allowed it more time to operate. With Paragon Investment Holdings waiting on the sidelines to succeed Menzies at the airport, they too will have to wait a bit longer to learn whether they can commence ground handling work. In our next story, the Chinese embassy has distanced itself from influencing the outcome of tenders being issued to construction tenders and says the competitiveness of the Chinese construction firms could be the reason they are often shortlisted. This follows a recent uproar over the shortlisting of 7 Chinese companies for the upgrade of the Karipep-Usakos Road. 7 Chinese companies, namely China Civil Engineering Construction Corporation, China Jingpi International, China Railway 7th, UNIK Construction, Zhongmei Engineering, China Henan International Corporation, and Shandong Likwai Group were shortlisted in what the Metal and Allied Namibian Workers Union and the Construction Industries Federation, which bemoaned the Roads Authority for shortlisting Chinese companies. The companies will vie for the $300 million Namibian project and funding provided by the KfW. Chinese ambassador to Namibia Zhao Weiping said Chinese companies were generally competitive owing to their being shortlisted. It must be a result of market competition, and I think the relevant authorities have already made some explanation. I'm sure it must be the result of market competition, Weiping said. We'll be back after the break with community news. To stay with us.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Getting into our community talk, 3 homeless teenage boys share their sad stories about how they ended up on the streets of Swakopmund with the approaching commemoration of the Day of the African Child in Namibia. Lawrence Namup, age 16, David Huendele, age 14, and Joseph Klassen, age 18, say that they don't feel like an African child. Let's take a look.
My name is Lawrence, the 16. My son no ganja. Jadi mi papa drink sake. Mi uncle kom hakkeer.
En waar is jouw onkel nou?
Is zo op je weer.
Nou op een dag plus minus hoeveel geld krijg je ooit?
Ja. Misschien 20 rand.
Volgens dan papa bin zeker dat alles is doen dat voor mij aan die. Kijk voor die zeggen dat is goed voor.
Okay.
Hij is nog anders hier, maar hij is net in het is. Waar onze kamer ga je hier is.
Wie hier voor jullie die kamer?
Juffrouw Sonia.
Wie is juffrouw Sonia?
Sana juffrouw. Met dat lunchboven. Groen dat staat.
En zij, waar het ze voor jullie gekregen?
Ze heeft voor ons hier in de straat gekregen. Toen is ze voor ons aan huis. Amerika. Ons is 6 wat dan ook aan het afgekomen. De Kaworonse vrienden is 2 van de komers van ook. Je weet die boer bij jou mooi. Dus je die is ook wanneer ze wanneer toch aan hier is en TRC aan kamer. Dus blij dat hij.
En wie betaalt voor jullie die kamer?
Dus je vrouw Sonia.
Is dat? En waar krijg jullie geld om kosten te maken? Om kosten te krijgen?
Water en kost of zo.
Nou, hoe heb jij in Okanja beland? Waar is jouw ouders?
Mijn ouders zijn in Okanja, met mij en met pa altijd.
Nou, hoe kom ik gegaan van Okanja?
Ik ben niet gaan worden naar Tango voor deze, toen kom ik er. En zeg maar, is zo die Sula is mooi nog om Sula.
En jij?
Ik heb net met mijn pa gehad, van Greenland. Ik weet niet mijn man. Mijn pa is dood. Nou wat ik bij mijn ma zei is break. Dat is wat die mensen voor mij hebben.
In economic news after the break, global oil demand could peak before the end of this decade as the energy crisis has accelerated. Do stay tuned for this story.
E-Ticket, your online ticket solution for events and event marketing, bringing you ease of mind and making sure that your event gets out there. For more information, contact events@nhcom.na.
Getting into our economic news, global oil demand could peak before the end of this decade as the energy crisis has accelerated the transition to cleaner technologies, the International Energy Agency said. The Paris-based agency forecast in its oil 2023 medium-term market report that annual demand growth would slow sharply over the next 5 years, from 2.4 million barrels per day this year to 400,000 barrels per day in 2028. Energy prices soared last year after Russia, a major exporter of fossil fuels, invaded Ukraine and cut deliveries of natural gas to Europe. Let's take a look at our economic indicators. The Namibian dollar trades against the British pound at 23.38, against the euro at 19.92, and 2 Namibian dollars and 56 cents gets you 1 Chinese yuan. All commodities went down except for Brent crude oil, trading at 0.65%, going for $76 and 24 cents per barrel. In the international news, at least 15 killed in Canada highway crash after truck hits bus in Manitoba.
To another exciting episode of Oneuptwo. Jullie is weer en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis julle moontlik gaan byt.
At least 15 people were killed in the Canadian Prairie province of Manitoba yesterday after a semi-trailer truck hit a small bus that was carrying a group of mainly elderly people, local police said. The crash is one of the most lethal road accidents in recent Canadian history. Separately, the Winnipeg Free Press newspaper said the victims had been on their way to a local casino. Let's take a look.
What I can confirm right now is that a bus carrying approximately 25 people collided with a semi at the intersection of Highway 1 and Highway 5. The individuals in the bus were from Dauphin and surrounding areas, and it's my understanding that the majority were seniors. Within the last hour, we've been able to establish that 15 people have been confirmed deceased as a result of this collision. 10 people were transported to hospital with various injuries. Given the severity of this collision, the RCMP Manitoba Major Crime Services has taken carriage of the investigation and are now on scene. Sadly, this is a day in Manitoba and across Canada that will be remembered as one of tragedy and incredible sadness. Above all, I want to express my deepest condolences on behalf of the RCMP to every family member who is grieving today.
At 11:43 this morning, the RCMP were dispatched to a motor vehicle collision at the intersection of Highway 1 and Highway 5 near Carberry, Manitoba. A semi-trailer was heading eastbound on Highway 1, and a bus carrying a number of senior citizens from Dauphin was headed southbound on Highway 5. The bus had already crossed the westbound lanes of Highway 1 and was crossing the eastbound lanes when it was struck by the semi. Immediately, it became apparent that this was a mass casualty situation. Numerous RCMPs were deployed from across the province. Major Crime Services was deployed and established an investigative structure which we refer to as Major Case Management, which is specially designed to manage large, complex investigations. Additionally, the Manitoba RCMP has also deployed specialists in forensic collision reconstruction, forensic identification section experts, and we are working closely with other experts throughout the province, such as the Medical Examiner's Office. They are all on scene as we speak. This incident does have echoes of the tragic collision that happened in Humboldt, Saskatchewan, and we are very much aware of that. We have already linked into the investigators in Saskatchewan who have first-hand experience and were some of the primary investigators in the investigation into the Humboldt crash, who are assisting us right now in any way we can. As of right now, the drivers are alive, being treated in hospital. As far as the vehicle pulling out or the right-of-way, I'm not going to answer that right now. I know that's an answer that people are looking for. That's a real critical point of the investigation.
We have patients right now. The emergency response team assessed, triaged on the scene, and then transported them to the hospitals between Prairie Mountain Health and Winnipeg. and we are continuing to triage and move them where they need to be. Most of the injuries were head injuries or orthopedic in nature, and we'll continue to assess as we go.
Up next, we'll take a look at the weather predictions. Getting into our weather predictions. Northern Namibia temperatures will range from 24 degrees Celsius to 31 degrees Celsius with clear conditions expected throughout the day. Humidity levels will range from 74.4% to 79.9%. Throughout central Namibia, temperatures will range from 14 degrees to 19 degrees Celsius with clear conditions expected throughout the day. Humidity levels will range from 10.1% to 15.8%. Now, throughout southern Namibia, temperatures will range from 14 degrees to 19.8 degrees with clear conditions expected throughout the day. Humidity levels will range from 60.2% to 77.5%. And finally, along the coast of Namibia, temperatures will range from 14.3 degrees Celsius to 21 degrees Celsius with clear conditions expected throughout the day, except for Oranjemund, where a light rain is expected with a 4.17% chance of precipitation. Humidity levels will range from 73.7% to 79.2%. After the break, we get into your sports news.
Hello and welcome to today's Sports Rep Show.
I am your host, Jesse Jackson Kauraifa. In replay, Namibia, who had won the toss for the first time on this tour.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with tennis news, both on the WTA for women's and
Let's take a look at the sporting news, courtesy of Sports Rep.
Good evening and welcome to the Sports Wrap Sports section on Sunset News. I am Ashwin Berry. Let's get into our stories. The Papkavits Junior Athletics team, consisting of 14 athletes, will represent Namibia over the weekend at the Nike Outdoor Athletics Championships at Hayward Field Stadium in Eugene, Oregon. Henny Horn, a high jump coach from Swakopmund, said the young team's participation will mean an incredible amount to them. We are not here to win medals, but to open the children's eyes. You can't buy that type of experience. He added that the juniors need exposure to see how things and training methods work elsewhere. The athletes at the Nike Outdoor Championships are so many and the competition is so tough that the first 6 athletes in a final all get medals. And the entries for the Nedbank Desert Dash are now open. Over recent years, entries into the 4-person team category for the Nedbank Desert Dash have sold out in minutes, making it the most sought-after category in the longest single-stage cycling race in the world. Entries opened for the Nedbank Desert Dash on Monday, with the 4-person team category opening for those teams who are brave enough to take on the Namib Desert in this year's Nedbank Desert Dash. The dash covers 397 kilometers and takes place annually through the stunning landscapes of the world's oldest desert. That brings us to the end of our sports update.
We'll be getting into the news highlights shortly. Getting into the news highlights from today's broadcast, tourist arrivals to Namibia have increased by 4.6% from 2021 to a total of 243,466 tourist arrivals in the 2022 tourism season, according to Tourism Minister Pohamba Shifeta. Although the past 2 years were gloomy to many in the tourism and travel sector, the future looks promising. Export abattoirs are experiencing an increase in the number of cattle being slaughtered as farmers reduce stock in preparation for the dry months ahead, while live exports have decreased. Livestock exports recorded a 14.91% decrease in May from the 13,129 heads of cattle exported in April. Now, over recent years, entries into the 4-person team category for the Nedbank Desert Dash have sold out in minutes, making it the most sought-after category and the longest single-stage cycling race in the world. And with that, we've come to the end of the broadcast. Make sure you join Sunset News on Facebook, on all the NMH platforms on weekdays, as well as on our website, oneuptwo.com. Sunset News screens on DSTV channel 285 and GoTV channel 25 every weekday from 7:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. I am Glenora Shipura, and this has been Sunset News. Don't end your day without us.